Joining us right now is Sean Spicer. He's a former White House press secretary and President Trump, and now his brand new Sean Spicer Show is available on The First and Apple Podcasts and YouTube and Rumble. And I don't know, are you shooting it off of a moon or something? How else can we see this, Sean?
I mean, yeah, you can go to Apple and YouTube, Rumble are all the best. And so, yeah, and all of them actually, as you know, I mean, like subscribe to everything. That's the key.
Isn't it great, actually? I mean, I want to get to the news of the day and politics and the Biden impeachment process, but it is great being in the media at this time where there are so many outlets for people to access information, and it's really up to the consumer to choose how they want to receive it. I love that. I mean, if I want to watch your show, I can watch it on X, right?
Yeah, I mean, I love the fact that we're look, 32% of Americans still have cable or satellite. We're entering an age where this is the future, and I was happy to jump into this because I think this is where things are headed quicker than anyone probably appreciated a few years ago. And so, but we're able to straddle the fence. We're on the first network, so if you're on DirecTV, you can get it at $347 there. But then we're on YouTube and Apple. And the beautiful part, to your point, is It's mobile. You can go somewhere and listen to it. You can watch it. You can toggle between the two.
Well, and to that end, we've talked about this many times in the past. I don't understand why the RNC has now announced that their next big debate of presidential candidates will be once again on a dinosaur media outlet, NBC News. NBC News is no fan of the Republican Party. They've proven that they're not going to be fair. So why not just take control of this debate process? They could stream it themselves on social media.
Yeah, look, I mean, I've made this point. I'm with you on the criticism. I took over the debate process and changed it historically in 2015. My hope was that they would build off of that. I left a plan together to do that. I think the answer is two things. One, it's easy to just say, great, well, let's just have NBC or CNN do it. And the second is that it requires a little bit of lift and money because debates aren't cheap and they need to get put together. But if you had put the time, they had 8 years to get this done. They could have found some sponsors and some locations. There are plenty of outlets, plenty of schools and venues that would have been happy to do this. But the answer is it's easy and cheaper to outsource this. But I think it's a dereliction of duty to allow organizations that fundamentally hate the Republican Party and conservative policies to help choose the Republican nominee for president. I mean, do you think that Chuck Todd or Andrea Mitchell or, what other, any of those folks
Anyone at NBC News. You name it. The conservative on the panel will be Joe Scarborough. What is that, right?
Even in the Fox debate, they didn't cover veterans. They didn't cover Second Amendment issues. They barely touched China. They didn't touch the military. All issues that I think are important to people on the right. And yet they had plenty of time to talk about abortion. Which is what, because it's about clicks and stuff for them. But I am very disappointed. And I think that what they've done by having Fox and then Fox Business is kind of delay what I think will be a lot of backlash from the grassroots. And I hope it will be, because I think it's sad that this opportunity, when I did this in 2015, we didn't the Daily Wire wasn't where it was. Salem didn't have a streaming platform.
Right.
The First didn't exist where my show is now on TV. I mean, Newsmax wasn't where it was. There were a lot of organizations that were in their infancy and now have the capability of doing something. And yet I get their concern, but if you had gotten ahead of the curve, you could have dealt with this.
I'd love to pivot onto this debate conversation because we've now learned what President Trump plans to do to counter program against next week's debate in Los Angeles. And frankly, I think it is brilliant. He'll be addressing striking UAW workers in Detroit. Even Politico had an article this morning, I'm sure you saw, where Democrats are complaining that he outsmarted Biden on this. He's done an end run around them. What do you think this is going to do?
Well, it's two things. One, to your point, it sucks out the oxygen of the debate because he is the 800-pound gorilla, so they're all going to be talking about what he said. But secondly, to your point about what Politico noted, look, Biden's basically just trying to get them to strike a deal to figure out how to get them back to work. What Trump is doing is talking about their future. Biden is jamming them into a world in which electric cars have fewer and fewer workers, and they fundamentally know that they might strike a short-term deal, but it's bad for the long-term viability of the industry. What Trump is doing is trying to say, I'm willing to fight for the long-term health and vitality of the auto industry by making sure that cars, gas-powered cars, are part of the future, because you can want electric vehicles, but we see what happens, whether it's heat or these floods and hurricanes that occur. They knock them all out. The batteries are a boon to companies overseas,
Hmm.
not American workers. So Trump gets the reality of this, that if you really care about the automobile industry, you have to talk about their future.
Well, and the fact that this speech, of course, because it's addressing auto workers, will be in Michigan, the swing state of all swing states coming up. I think that's going to have an impact as well. Sean, specifically, though, with regard to today's events on Capitol Hill, where Merrick Garland was grilled by the Judiciary Committee, it sure looks like, based on the line of questioning and the way Chairman Jim Jordan, who I know you just interviewed on your show, is
Yeah, just on the show last night.
Yeah, he's lining up right now to move toward a very real impeachment process for Biden. And I keep hearing from really smart people in this town that this will hurt Republicans. It's going to boomerang on Republicans. Are they still shell-shocked from Bill Clinton in the 90s?
Well, yeah, but it's also, look, I'm fearful of that too.
Are you?
Republicans suck at, yeah, Republicans suck at messaging. I mean, right now, I asked Jim Jordan this, I've asked Seb Gorka this. Everybody agrees. Tell me, look, here's the problem I have. If we're going after him, we got to make a clear and compelling case about what Joe Biden did, not what Hunter Biden did, what Joe Biden did, so that the average American walking down the street says that that is a high crime and misdemeanor and worth impeaching him. I think that they've got it there. I think that they need to go out and start selling this. They need to explain to people what's happening. I think generally speaking, most people understand that Hunter Biden's a scumbag, but scumbags are allowed to exist in America. That's just, we have plenty of them. So I think that what I worry about is that if we can't make a case, and we saw what happened with Donald Trump, the Democrats went after him on a political witch hunt, and it benefited and it made Trump stronger, both in terms of impeachment and indictments. And so my point isn't that don't do it. It's do it smartly. Message this correctly. Understand what you're going for. When I ask members of Congress to come on my show, what is the end game? What are you hoping to achieve? And they can't answer that question. That suggests a problem. And so my point is, we're in the inquiry phase. Slow your roll. Do it right.
Speaking of the 90s, we're now hearing conversations in D.C. about a government shutdown. It almost seems like Democrats are excited about this because they know the media spin will be Republicans can't govern. They've actually brought on the government shutdown. What should Kevin McCarthy do with this?
Well, I go back to the same thing. I've had a couple of members on. We've talked about this over the week. If they can't explain what they're fighting for, less spending, border security, which they can't. I ask all these members, what is it that you ultimately want? What is it that you're going to do? Because you've got an 8% cut right now. You've got HR2, that border bill, put in the compromise bill, and it's still not good enough.
Yeah.
So what is it that you want? And so far, I can't get an answer. So McCarthy needs to go to them and say, lay out what exactly the top 3 or 4 things that you want us to fight for are. But if Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene can't answer that question, then we have a bigger problem, and we need to start fighting better as a team.
Let me run this by you. I think they should make it all about the border. And they say until they actually do their constitutional duty and shut down the border, as the executive branch is responsible for doing, then they're not going to go ahead with any of this funding. And the message is Biden would rather shut down the government than shut down the border.
Jim Jordan said that on the show last night, and I agree with both you and him. Make it simple, make it easy, and it's something that most Americans would say, that's fair. We have a porous border. People are streaming through. We have fentanyl and sex traffickers and terrorists coming through our border because you refuse to make it a priority, and that's easy. Everybody should get on board on that. But I'm on that team.
All right, Sean Spicer. Speaking of streaming, you can stream his show, The Sean Spicer Show, on whatever platform you want. You're even on the DirecTV satellite, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, listen, but I do appreciate the subscriptions. When you're doing independent media, I'm not this high media executive like you. I don't have agents and car services. And so every time that you subscribe, that helps the show. So please go to YouTube, Rumble, Apple Podcasts. That just really helps show the success of the show. So it's like a book. I don't really care if you read it all the time, as long as you buy it. And with the show, just subscribe. Subscriptions matter. I'm
glad you brought up the car services because you still owe me for that ride back from the debate to the Chicago airport. And
you mean the ones that the kids, the ones that the young kids funded? That wasn't that a
young kid? You've
kids.
Got my Venmo. You know how to. Come on, Sean.
Wow, please. I can't believe you're trying to profit.
You're still getting royalties from Dancing with the Stars. I don't want to hear your sob stories again. Look at now he's going to act like the connect. Oh yeah, though we lost the connection. We'll be back. I don't got her today.